Hello, everyone, and welcome to Generation Who Cares. My name is Jason Riegelsberger, and today we are with two individuals who basically have just taken over a business, and we're going to talk to them about that. Those gentlemen are John Muller and Steve Chung. Gentlemen, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having
This
us.
is
We're
great.
pumped.
So, wanted to talk about, and I think what's great about what you've done is you kind of gone from doing completely different jobs to just taking that chance and all of a sudden buying a business. So first of all, we'll start, John, with you. Just give us a little bit of your background, and then Steve, if you don't mind doing the same, and then we'll kind of figure out how all of a sudden this business came into your laps.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So from St. Louis, grew up in Chesterfield. And long story short, grew up in, my mom had a book fair business growing up. And I was always around kind of supporting her small business and helping her, staff the book fairs and so forth. And just have always kind of had entrepreneurial ambitions, and had a grass cutting business in high school, and got involved in commercial real estate or residential real estate in college. And fast forward to today, Jason, as you know, have a commercial real estate company, and we own a lot of office buildings, commercial centers, retail centers around the St. Louis and Midwest areas, and then stumbled into the electrical manufacturing company world.
Yeah. So, totally different path than John. We've talked about this a lot, but so grew up in Kansas City, just was, typical, I'd say, immigrant family, at least in my opinion. We didn't really have any other concepts of jobs and things like that when we were kids. My parents thought, really engineering or being a doctor were kind of the two professions that they thought would be good for us. So just always just followed the kind of the path that I'd say most kids do nowadays, going through high school and getting into college. My brother went the medical route, so I ended up going the engineering route. Got my engineering degree from Rolla. Decided to, move to Dallas. There was an opportunity to work down there for a company called L3. Did that for about 5 years with my wife. We wanted to get back here to St. Louis. That's where she's from originally, to start a family and things like that. So got on with a company called Leonardo DRS, which is a defense contracting company. Did HVAC and refrigeration for the Navy. So really just have been around manufacturing my whole life. Just weirdly, didn't really intend on that, being an engineer, but just happened to be around it a lot, and on different ships in the fleet and things like that. Was just a really cool environment to be around. So really, John and I started talking early last year about, maybe trying something different, and he had talked about buying an operating business, and that's how this kind of all started. And since I had been around that quite a bit in my background, it just made sense to kind of collaborate on that.
Yeah, and I think what's important, just from your backgrounds, John, you have more of the kind of owning your own business type of concept, but all of a sudden you're going from commercial real estate and working in kind of a corporate job to, we're just going to buy a business and see what happens. And, I think that's kind of like that movie with Matt Damon, We're Going to Buy a Zoo.
Yeah.
Or something like that, where he just buys a zoo, and it's not they didn't know what to do, but he really didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So when you were in the process of buying the business, and I think you guys bought it in February of this year, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. It took several months in order to get to that point, not only politically with the city and trying to make sure you had tax credits or whatever you were doing, but I think on top of that, just trying to get the dynamics of actually owning a company that really kind of don't have any idea about. You're just kind of throwing it there. So take me a little bit through your discussions on when you started looking at how the business worked and what you were thinking about pursuing the business and how that was going to grow, what your thoughts were about it. I mean, did you have any doubt where you're like, well, wait a minute, maybe this is not the thing? Or was it, as you kept going, you're like, you know what, we can make this happen?
Well, I think it was a little bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I think, as part of the purchase of the business, because of where it was located in the city of St. Louis, we were eligible for new markets tax credits. In my mind, always goes to real estate, thinking of new market tax credits for real estate. Didn't really understand that they also applied for operating businesses. So I think getting the process of going through the tax credit process probably extended the closing by 4 to 6 months. So it took every bit of a year, maybe a year, plus a couple months to actually close on the business because of all the intricacies associated with it. But I think there were a lot of different questions as far as the biggest question I think Steve was why were the sellers selling to begin with? It
Yeah.
was a great business in an electrical manufacturing industry, and I think everyone's heard that everything needs wires, and the world is becoming more and more electrified. So just by the fact of the industry that this business was in, just really caused us, was a cause for pause to really help understand what their motivation was. If they were financially motivated, solely financially motivated, it would have been in their best interest to run this for another few years
Hmm.
and just organically grow it and sell it for more money. The dynamics there were that there's a father and son team, and son kind of wanted to pursue other interests, felt like he'd taken the business to, as far as he was capable or had the desire to take it. And he knew that his dad would never retire unless the business was sold. So kind of the combination was really ended up being the motivation of how this came to be and why they decided to sell.
Yeah, and I was going to say, just as part of the the acquisition process and kind of the ups and downs with it is, I think from my standpoint, I was always very confident in running the business side, and just being in the different leadership roles I was with different organizations I was with. That part was the easy part for me. It was all the upfront, and John's experience with the business side really got us through kind of the stuff that I would have never done on my own. So it's just been a really good partnership. And I never really had any doubt on the business itself. And we've come to find, it's better than we expected. Really the team has been great. And being able to be in charge of our own decisions. For the different corporations I'd worked for, there was always limits and rules and things like that. And being able to do the things that we know are right for the business, and, be able to support the team that's doing such a great job. And then we've met just a bunch of the different customers we've had that are awesome to work with. So it's just been better than we expected, I'd say. And, really, there was never any doubt from that side. It was always just the getting it acquired was the difficult part.
Yeah, and it's a different dynamic too because you're running the business from a different end. However, when you get up and walk around, next thing you know, you have how many employees do you have?
I think we have 35 right now.
Oh,
Yep.
35.
Yep.
So I was looking at your website this weekend and I was just kind of the first picture you see is you two and everybody. And to me, and I had a gentleman on here a couple of months ago, we were doing an interview about how he runs his business, and we started talking about employees. To me, the whole idea of customer comes first is gone. That used to be something from years ago, and now it's your employees, because your customers cannot be interested in your product if your employees are not interested. So tell me a little bit about how the employee interaction has been, because you both are in the office constantly,
Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah.
No, it's a little different for you, John, because you weren't really in an
I'm used to
office.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But how's the interaction been, and how have the employees taken to new ownership and kind of a new direction?
Yeah, I mean, I could start maybe and just talk about, when the first day I remember, we did an all hands and just kind of had an opportunity to just introduce ourselves and talk a little bit about our backgrounds. And, since then, I think it's more, conveying our philosophy on, I practice a lot of servant leadership and in my prior company, which is really like as a management team, we're responsible for supporting the actual employees that are actually on the shop floor delivering revenue. So, we've been trying to reinforce that, and I think it's been very well received. Making investments that we did in some of the upgrades that we did in the front office, and some equipment that we bought for the shop floor I think it's been very well received so far.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, to your point, Steve, I think the sellers of the business always sold their team, saying how
Oh,
great
yeah.
the team was. And while we believed him, you never really understand that until you get in there and see it for yourself. But we have seen that. We've seen it for ourselves that we just inherited a fantastic team. I think, in any business, it's all about getting the right people on the bus and getting them in the right seat on the bus. And that's, I think, our biggest job is employees and aligning interests and supporting a team rather than getting in their way.
Yep.
Yeah, and you see it again. I've been to your business a couple of times, and it seems like the employees, not only do they have structure, but I don't want to call it a leadership, but it seems like everybody has an idea of what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's not any question or people floating around. Everybody has a process, which makes you much better, obviously, in what you're trying to sell. What is it that you're selling? I've been to the facility and I see all kinds of wires, and there's literally hundreds of baskets of wires and clips. I have zero idea what you do. I have no idea, but explain a little bit what it is you're doing. And then some of the people that you're actually trying to sell to. I know you mentioned something about the Navy
Yeah.
and potential government. So what is it exactly that you're doing there?
Yeah. So basically, it's a business that's been around since 1983. Kind of started out more selling components. So the prior the business name was Electrical Accessories Unlimited. So more like electrical accessories, like terminals and lugs and things like that, like piece parts. So they were kind of just a distributor of those kind of components through like the 80s and 90s. And over the 2000s, they started to evolve more into, actual built up harness assemblies and electrical wires that go into everything that we have, around the world today. So, started doing more of those kits, assemblies and piece parts that were more of a completed wire. So then since then, really the prior ownership started to move into more of like finished assemblies. So like what you would see like a control panel that controls some kind of power distribution or inputs or outputs. So really that's what's evolved into more of that industry. So really when John and I took it over, we rebranded it to Electrical Assemblies Unlimited to more represent those final assemblies. And it's to your point, we kind of can do everything for everyone right now. But, primarily I'd say power generation being where it's at in the United States. That's a big thing that we're looking at, and we have customers in already. And then really the data center stuff is exploding. So, we're not really doing anything in that industry yet, but looking for opportunities there to grow. Then with my defense background, knowing that the Navy is also moving more into electrification, that's been a big component of why we were interested in buying the business. So, that takes a little time to break in, and, we're starting to make inroads there, but it's going to take some time, but that's definitely another area of growth for us.
Yeah, with the data centers popping up all of a sudden,
Yeah.
which this seems like it just popped up like a month ago.
Right.
Everything just
Yeah.
now is on the news, data centers. Is that, as you progress from where you're at now, what do you see coming down in the next, say, 3 to 5 years? Because everything's happening so fast.
Yeah.
Again, we were not involved with AI. It's been around, but now all of a sudden it's publicly traded and
yeah.
it's every.
Mhm.
So do you see your group going in that direction? Or, I mean, how do you see the technology evolving as fast as it is, and can you keep up?
Yeah, so I think everyone knows that data centers are kind of the buzzword right now in
Mhm.
AI, and it's true. I think we're going to have a runway in front of us of 5 to maybe 10 years where data center construction is going to be huge, and there's going to be a huge need for sourcing everything that we do, whether it's panel work, whether it's harnessing, big power cables and so forth. So I think we're well positioned in the industry because on top of that, um, you know, everyone's heard of the onshoring movement. There's a movement to take, find stateside sources for all this componentry, and with the tariffs and things costing more from overseas, and the reliability and time factor. We keep hearing the same thing that, or theme rather, that speed, getting the material is more important than the cost sometimes.
Mhm.
So, I think we have a pretty good story to tell as a Midwest
Yeah.
manufacturer who To your point, Jason, you asked what we sell, and we're selling, all of these things, cable assemblies,
Yeah.
harnessing, and control panels. But really, what we're selling is responsiveness and agility. We bend over backwards for our customers. We answer our phones. We return emails quickly. And I feel like whether that's a electrical manufacturer in the Midwest or a commercial real estate company, that is 90% of the battle is being responsive
Yeah.
and being there when the customer needs you. So that's another thing we're
Yeah.
selling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the employees, I think, are so important in your business. The customers, yeah, they're important, obviously, but they're not end all be all like it used to be. Um, with that in mind of the change in technology and things like that, first we'll start with what challenges do you see with that coming up? I mean, how many competitors do you have? I mean, are there other John Steve businesses floating around in the country that you have to deal with, or do you know of them, or have you talked to them? I know it sounds crazy to talk to a competitor, but
Yeah.
sometimes that's the way you do business today is
Yeah.
actually talking to your competitors and kind of getting ideas. Have you had any chance to do that, or do you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
of?
we as John and I are newbies to the industry, but understanding what we have, we've done industry kind of analysis to just understand the competitive environment. Definitely, there's other guys out there that are doing the same stuff. I think it's what John said and what we've been talking about is the team is really what is the differentiator for our business. The products probably are close to the same, but the way we can, create relationships with our customers, relationships with our suppliers, and our team itself really differentiates our business.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine that. So if you have a contract, you aren't the only one bidding on it.
Yeah.
I imagine. What do you do? Do you think to allow yourself to kind of get that advantage? I mean, is there something that you do? You don't want to cut prices necessarily. Sometimes you have to, but what do you think would put you ahead of, say, the other EAUs that are
Yeah.
floating around?
Yeah. No, good question. I think it's mostly about the value we provide to our customers. So, we do what we say we're going to do.
Mhm.
So, not only do we come up with solutions that will be more cost effective, more easy to manufacture, things like that. But if we say we're going to deliver something tomorrow, we're going to deliver it tomorrow, and we'll find a way. We'll get in the car ourselves and deliver it. So, I mean, it's those kind of things that I think really differentiate our relationships with our customers.
Yeah, yeah. And I've always kind of practiced, John and I being in business together on the commercial real estate side. We do go above and beyond. I mean, we sometimes we get in the car and we go meet with somebody or we'll be at a place and to me it means the world to that particular person. They will remember that. They remember the negative things as well, but they'll remember that one thing that you did that really changes their mindset of your business. So far, since you've bought the business, you guys have been, what, 8, I guess, months in. Give me a couple of challenges so far and a couple of successes.
I think the biggest challenge has been losing one of our key customers over the
Oh,
first 8
oh,
months.
Yeah,
oh,
that's a good
okay.
How
yeah.
about that one? So, I guess just high level, and this was really our biggest concern buying the business, and we underwrote the business with not having the revenue from this particular customer. But we were building spray foam insulation guns that deploy like adhesive that would go as like a first layer adhesive layer under a commercial TPO flat roof
Mhm.
kind of application. We were building, over 100,000 of these a year, and at the end of the day, it was assembly work. It had nothing to do with electrification, so it wasn't necessarily. Steve and I always knew that this project was not who we wanted to be when we grew up, but
Yeah.
it was good business, but it took a lot of our team's time. And long story short, we ended up unwinding that program. The customer ended up unwinding it for us, which was a blessing in disguise, which really allowed us to focus on our core business and filling the shop floor with work that really fit who we want to be when we grow up.
Mhm.
Yeah, and definitely was a challenge to get through it again. With the team that we have in place, I think we kind of rolled with it. It's been really, like John said, a blessing in disguise. It's been good for us to stop, with that distraction and focus on the things that we need to really focus in on as far as growing the business. And just, I'd say success wise, it's really the morale, I'd say, has really changed for our team. As we've more and more invested back into the business. They see we're serious about, growing this business long term,
Mhm.
and it's not, something we're looking to change really quickly or flip over or anything like that. It's more about investing in the right places, building the team up. We're very selective with the people that we bring in to not only tour the business, but also to interview and to add to the team. We're very sensitive to that culture. So I'd say from a success standpoint, it's really about, the team that we've not only inherited, but we're trying to really enhance and grow that, ownership side and empowerment side. And with the investments that we're making, and then we're also, trying to give a lot more back to the team so that they see the value of, being part of this business as it grows.
Yeah. What changes in physically have you made to the building? Because when I first looked at it, there were a couple of dark rooms, and, and you're like, I don't know what's going on in here. What have you changed physically? Have you added some more offices and some more manufacturing areas? And how do you see that playing out in the future for growth and additional revenue as you keep going?
Well, I can take this one.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a good one for you, John.
So this is the easy one for me. The construction and the real estate piece was, easy for me. I've been speaking that language for a long time and
Yeah.
know how to do it. The harder part has been learning Steve's manufacturing language over the last 8 or 9 months or so. But yeah, so the history is the father son team that we bought the business from, the seller of the business, was leasing the building from the former owner of the business. So Steve and I purchased the building we wanted to own it. We wanted to be in control to expand it and lay things out differently and improve it. I think the prior owner of the company felt like they didn't want to invest in a building that wasn't theirs. So we came in, we redid all the office areas. We did a facelift on the exterior of the building, the parking lot, landscaping, signage, the rebrand that Steve talked about. And employee break room, we're getting ready to redo the engineering department right now, and signage on the shop floor, and just it for us, it really we want to maximize the first impressions for customers and employees and anyone who comes in our front door. We want to look like a professional company that cares and is willing to invest back into the business, whether it's physical improvements or whether it's tools, equipment, machinery on the shop floor.
Okay. And do you see that really kind of what's the game plan? 3 to 5 years, you'll see a return on that, if you will, with maybe growth, more manufacturing, maybe different products because of that expansion within the building.
Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
think, a lot of the stuff that we've done right now more is the cosmetic stuff in the front office. The shop floor is the area that we know that we can expand and grow even further. We bought a pretty nice new piece of automated equipment when we first got there, to help support some of the revenue that's currently in place. But when we kind of decluttered a little bit out in the manufacturing floor, knowing that like John said about the prior owners not really owning the building, they had a lot of just stuff sitting around. So when we were able to move some of that stuff and get rid of a lot of the junk that was there, it really opened up the floor to some creative vision for the future.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think there's a lot of room to expand just into our existing footprint now that we've moved things out. So it's just a matter of finding those right opportunities and then find the right equipment to buy to make us the most competitive in those environments. That's really, I think, the growth expansion that we expect to have.
Yeah. So you've been doing this 8 months, and it's probably been the fastest 8 months of your life.
Oh my God, flying by.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're trying to figure out what the next step is looking into the future. There are a lot of people out there who, in fact, we were talking before about a friend who basically just, changed his life in a few days by doing something different. If there's somebody out there that wants to start a business, own a business, I think you two are probably the perfect examples of just kind of getting together and doing it. How would you explain to someone, one, how to do that, and two, what type of advice would you give to a person that wants to just start a business who's I'm tired of what I'm doing, but I have
Yeah.
skills at something else. How would you guide somebody that way? Give us an example of what you were talking about that made you think, you know what, we're going to do this, and then how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, you want to start, John?
Yeah, sure, I could start.
Yeah.
So the first thing I could do is point them to a great book that I read that, kind of in my journey of wanting to buy an operating company that was really valuable to me. That's called Buy Then Build by Walker Dybel. And, everyone hears the statistic that 90% of small businesses fail. But what you don't hear as often is that only 4% of the 10% that make it ever generate more than $1 million a year in revenue. So it kind of makes the case for, a startup being very hard, very labor intensive to start from zero.
Mhm.
But if you can acquire an operating business like Steve and I did with 35 employees and scale it, you're not starting from zero, you're starting from a higher level, and you're having the benefit of all the prior owners, blood, sweat, and tears building the business in the early years.
Yeah, and the other side, I'd say maybe just for other people that are going through the normal maybe career path that you expect to have when you're a kid. That for me was most empowering, I'd say, for being able to think outside of the box of what you normally would do going through college and getting a normal job or quote unquote normal job. Knowing that there's another way to, skin the cat, so to speak, is there's other ways to, feel more ownership, I'd say, over your outcomes in your life as far as your career is concerned. That's really, I think, the advice I'd give is that there's not really only one path to get to, ownership. And, knowing that that would have existed whenever I was younger, I literally only thought you had to get a full-time job when you graduated college, and get benefits and things like that, which is definitely, a good path for a lot of people. But knowing that there's an entrepreneurial path that's available where you have a lot more, decision-making ability, you can do the right things for the business that, you've really wanted to do all along. That was for me just very eye-opening that other people have been doing that, and it took me this long to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, once like I said, you got to find definitely somebody to mentor you or have a partner in it. But having John with that background and his mindset really made it a little bit easier for me to kind of get over that, kind of fear of changing from something stable. So, definitely I'd say mostly from an advice standpoint is just, keep an open mind, definitely be willing to take the leap, when it makes sense. And it just, everything penciled out great on this. And it's so far so good. So I definitely think it's, worth taking the leap sometimes.
So when I started my business, first person I talked to after I started was John. The second person actually was my wife.
Yeah.
Because it's all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to figure it out, and then just go from there. How has your family dynamic changed a little bit? I mean, you've taken a risk all of a sudden
Yeah.
from having this corporate job to now it's on me to do that. I know you've been doing that for several years, but
Yeah, I was gonna say my wife's used to me taking risks, and just trust me.
yeah. So how has it changed? I mean, do your kids, are they pretty excited about it? They may not know the ins and outs
Yeah.
like we've discussed, but how do they feel about it, and what do they see Dad as doing today?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think overall, my wife is pretty open to, whatever I decide. And, so we discussed it and obviously gave her the ins and outs, and she lived kind of the year of acquisition with us. And, it was definitely a risk, for her to kind of take that leap with us. But, overall, I think she trusts in, both John and I, and, John's background and things like that. And what I'd been doing for so long that, she really just kind of felt confident in us, going forward with it. Yeah, and as far as the kids are, I mean, I think they love being able to come to the office. I can say that. It's definitely different than what I was doing before, and being in defense, it wasn't as easy to have visitors and things like that. So, being able to come and see us more regularly and during the summers, kind of just be around was awesome for them. I think they love the idea that, I'm a little bit more flexible and things like that in my schedule. And then they get to come see me in the office and stuff. So, um, it's just kind of, I didn't mention earlier, but my parents used to own a Chinese restaurant in Kansas City, a small business. And so I've always kind of had that entrepreneurial mindset, but just didn't really realize what benefit that would be versus having, the full-time job thing. But, it was just, again, same kind of flexibility in my parents' ability to have me there a lot. I was always at the restaurant, helping with whatever I wanted to help with. And the kids, I think, like that idea that, hey, I can help with some of this stuff too, if you ever need it. So it's been fun.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
A great life lesson for kids to grow up in an entrepreneurial family,
No doubt.
small business
No doubt.
family, and just, whether it's direct conversations or indirect, just kids hearing about things, whether it's you and Kara talking to each other and they hear Renee and I talking, and, you just pick up, bits and pieces here or there that's different than going into a job every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the way technology is, you never know, in the next 5 or 7 years, they're going to be running your Instagram page
Yeah.
or whatever, or whatever they call it at that point.
Right,
They have so many tools that they use electronically.
Yeah.
It's just,
it's changing every day.
it's insane.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, the type of marketing, what type of marketing do you guys do? I mean, are you on Facebook, Instagram, or do you more of a website type of thing? How can, people find you if you're trying to gain some more business?
So, the prior owners really didn't do much marketing at all.
Yeah.
And as Steve mentioned, we rebranded, did a soft rebrand, kept the EAU kind of legacy, but rebranded the accessories to assemblies to more fully represent, moving up the value stream, and completed, bigger harnesses and control panels and so forth. So Steve and I did that within a couple months of buying the business, actually changed the name. And in part of that, we built a brand new website. And I think half the battle for us is just having a professional marketing company come in and help with that rebrand and help to build a website so that we have a seat at the table. The prior owners didn't really have a seat at the table because they, if you Google electrical accessories, then unlimited, maybe you were 10 or 20, pages down on the Google rating.
Yeah.
And now we're one of the top couple, maybe 2 or 3. Haven't checked it recently, but at one point we were number one.
Okay.
And it's really proven itself. An investment in a website and just an overall web presence is not a significant cost. But, for us, it's really given us, we've had customers find us for sizable projects that never knew we were here. And because we changed the name and we're actually have a professional website, they found us.
That's great.
So it's already paid for itself in spades.
Yeah, I can actually, similar to what John was saying, is I could speak from just my experience being in the defense industry. Is we were looking for electrical contractors and people that we could outsource that work to, and never had heard of EAU. And, so that's the biggest push for me is, as a new owner now and, with the rebrand, is getting the secret out. Is we have a great team, a great company. We supply great products, like I said. So it's really just about how do you get your name out there, where you can start spreading the word, instead of waiting for people to refer you and things like that. And so definitely, I think the having the new website out there, and then getting on those socials, at least just kind of just showing that we're doing things and things are changing, and we're investing back into the business like we've talked about. All those things are showing up, and I think we're trying to get that, just spread the word a little bit more that, we're here and we can help support you and do some things that we've been doing for all our other customers for a long time. You just didn't know about us.
Yeah. Where do you see yourselves in 5, 10, 15 years?
Oh man, that's
I wish everybody could see a visual on this one.
Yeah.
You both looked at each other like, I have no idea.
Well, we'll definitely have an EAU corporate jet.
Yeah, there we go.
Other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's the thing. You just don't know, and if you did, great. But if you don't, you see where the world takes you.
Yeah, I mean, loving what I'm doing now. So, I mean, hopefully still doing the same in 5 years. I think John and I have just jokingly talked about it, but, passing the business down someday. I mean, my goal is to make this a forever business is, it doesn't end with us.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can, pass it down to generations or figure out how to make it employee owned or whatever. I'm kind of open to whatever it looks like. So
Yeah.
definitely interested in still being a part of it, no doubt.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. John, Steve, thanks for your time. You guys have been great, and appreciate everything you've been talking about today, not only for yourselves, but for other businesses. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, no, thank you. This
All right.
is great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for listening to another episode of Generation Who Cares. Look for us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. And if you have any ideas for the episodes moving forward, please let us know at genwcpod@gmail.com. That's genwcpod@gmail.com. I'm Jason Riegelsberger, 7'5", not 6'7".